it certainly may seem very strange that we read this Gospel of Transfiguration on the second Sunday of Lent, and yet it is crucial. You know what? Because the disciples had to go through a lot of anguish and pain and confusion before they were able to witness the resurrection. That's true for all of us. Life is not easy. Life throws us many curveballs, and it is filled oftentimes with pain, physical, emotional, spiritual. Right here. Right at the beginning of Lent, it's the story of our own lives. And life only makes sense when we believe in God and that Jesus is God himself, the true picture of the Father. God is love, and that, for those who believe, life does make sense. No matter how painful it may be, there's a resurrection awaiting us. So life for the Christian is a life filled with hope. Yesterday, I had a funeral of a young woman, 34 years old. 34 years old. She left behind 3 children. How do you make sense out of that? You don't believe it. I had the parents sitting right there in the front row. How do you accept that? If it were not for God and for our faith in the resurrection and the hope that we have that we're going to share in the resurrection of Jesus, sometimes life is senseless. And there is nothing to soothe the pain of those things that just seem to happen randomly. But with God, nothing happens randomly, and with God, we always have hope. That's the key what is here. Belief in God is essential for human beings in order to live good lives, and in order to have a sense of fulfillment that no matter what curveball life throws to you, that God is in control. God is in control, not us. Okay, which leads me to an issue that I wanted to speak to you about. We've heard about the case of the wrongful death embryos in Alabama. How many have heard about that case? Okay, it's a very, very important case. And it has a lot to do with this as to who is in control of life. Who is in control of life? The story has it that someone wandered into what they call the nursery, where they store these embryos that are chronologically stored in ice. Imagine it's the equivalent of, you remember some of you used to call it hot ice, and they're stored, and that way they can be implanted later on when the woman is ready to conceive with the embryo. Hope, that it's always hope that it is a success. Conception. Someone wandered into the nursery where these embryos are stored. When they went to pick up the tray, of course it's that hot ice, it burns, and they dropped the tray. Okay? 3 couples had their embryos in that tray, and of course the embryos were lost. And these couples, of course, were waiting that they would have children with these embryos. Now, the case went to court, went to the Alabama Supreme Court. And the Alabama Supreme Court, they gave a very, very fine ruling on this case. They said it's the wrongful death of a child. The statute, the law came back in 1875, that you could have the wrongful death of a child that is yet unborn. But then the Alabama Supreme Court, just 2 years ago, said that in the state of Alabama, all human life is protected from conception until natural death. So, what do you have now? You have a wrongful death of a child lawsuit in Alabama, and the judges say it was 9-0. Every one of the judges agreed that there is liability, not only for the person who dropped the tray, but also for those who were in charge of the clinic, because what you have there, you have certainly negligence there, but also you have the loss of life, the life of a child. Now, This is caused a kerfuffle all over the nation. Why? Because it says that those embryos are children. And what does this do to Planned Parenthood and the abortion industry? They're afraid it's going to spread to different states. And so the doctors, reproductive doctors, they stopped using the embryo harvesting and implantation in the state of Alabama for fear of being sued. Right? So this has a tremendous implication for the country and for the pro-life movement, and of course for Planned Parenthood. Now, what do we have to say about this case insofar as how it is going to affect us as a society? First of all, once again, it's the recognition of a right of every human being to life and to be protected under the law. But it also says this, that we have to now be very careful about how we handle human life from its earliest stages, even from the embryo. Now, for a long time in the reproductive technology field, it's been the Wild West. There are really very few restrictions put on the production of embryos and their implantation. And so we have to have now discussions about the guidelines. How are these embryos to be cared for? What do you do with the embryos that are not used? And or can you destroy embryos or experiment on embryos? You see how difficult the situation is. It's not only difficult for those who want to end life, but it's also for those of us who want to preserve life. What do we do to preserve life and to give every human being from conception to natural death the dignity that they deserve? What is there easy to think about? This is even the media. And the media said a couple of things. One thing on MSNBC, one of the hosts said, well, you know, we determine who has the right to life in this country. Holy cow, we determine it? No, who determines it? Almighty God. Our rights come from God, not from the state. We're not from some reproductive endocrinologist. It's the job of the judge in all these cases to say, we don't make the laws. God makes the laws, and we try to apply God's laws in order that we might have a good human life. That we don't have chaos. We don't end up like the Nazis who determined that certain people were not human and other people were. Very, very important. Secondly, when we look at this case, it takes a certain amount of personal involvement to see how important it is and the horrors that there are when we can determine who lives and who dies. I'm referring to the divine law. There's a woman, Adams, I'm sure many of you watch The View. The View. I've never watched The View, okay? But I'm reading about Sonny Hostin, and she's on there with Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar. I don't watch it, but I know what's going on, right? And Sonny Hostin, she said that she's anti-abortion. And the other lady said, "Oh man, you gotta be kidding me, you know?" And she said, "No, those embryos, they have the right to life. They're children." And one of them said, "Well, how do you know?" She said, "Because 2 of my kids are born that way." Oh boy, what a difference it makes, doesn't it? When you got some skin in the game, doesn't it? And she said, how different my life would have been if I didn't have these 2 kids. 1 20, 1 19, a boy and a girl. So the discussion is out there. And this is a good thing that has happened. It's a good thing that has happened. It's a good thing not just for the unborn,
not just the pro-life movement. It's a good thing for all Americans. And matter of fact, it's a good thing for the whole world to have this discussion about life and where do our rights come from and how can we best protect life. And I hope the church puts its 2 cents into this. I mean, I'm willing and able to put my 2 cents into this. Matter of fact, a week from tomorrow, I'm going to be at Arthrex. And we're going to have a discussion about modern technology, state-of-the-art technology, where we're going in the future. So I'm anxious. Now, if I get a chance, I'll put my 2 cents in, okay? After they give my knee replacement. The last thing is this, and I want you to hold on to this. No matter how anybody comes into this world, the regular old natural way, or through artificial insemination, every human being, whether we come into this world by natural methods, by scientific methods, because you're at one time an embryo. I met a few embryos. All right, some of them in their 20s and 30s, and they're wonderful people. They're the same as everybody else, okay? No matter how you got here, you made God's image and likeness, and never take that for granted.